Hello, fellow pilots, privateers, pirates, buccaneers, and scoundrels. This is Robert Gary, leader of the Gary Pirate Clan. Elite has turned 30 this month, from humble beginnings to the state-of-the-art that is Elite Dangerous. Now, I haven't quite been sailing the worlds of Elite for 30 years. I started in 1986 using an Atari ST. This here was my first introduction to the worlds of Elite. A blue-on-blue Cobra, a green-coloured lathe, lots of complex yet simple sprites representing both the goods I could buy and the equipment I could put on my ship. I mean, they're just simple pictures which sort of hinted at depth that was more than just text. It was, the escape capsule looked like some sort of crazy thing from out of this world, and obviously the alien items were that as well. It actually showed foodstuffs and textiles, and I learned quite a lot of, things like narcotics was a pile of white stuff with what looked like a spaceship coming out of it. But then I later learned that was powder and a syringe or something of that ilk. So it was an educational process as well. The ship status page in particular has stayed with me all these years. A sensation of starkness yet boldness. This was my ship, but I was alone in the galaxy. Even after all these years, I climb back into the cockpit of my Atari ST Cobra, and my chest swells with nostalgia. I mean, this opening scene, just wait for it. There it is, boom, there's your Cobra. Oh, it's just the dotty music of the Blue Danube, the words Elite coming up, and there's your Cobra. It's just, I don't know, I've seen that so many hundreds, possibly even thousands of times, and even after all these years, it still just sort of feels like something magical and special to me. Now, I'd normally wait until a Thargoid shows up after the Cobra, after the crate, because it could go either way. You could either get a green Thargoid or you could get a grey Thargoid. Now, if you get a green Thargoid, then you're probably okay, because the green Thargoids, although tricky, aren't that bad. But if you get a grey Thargoid, then things are completely different, and those grey Thargoids are really hard to beat. And the chance of being caught, being trapped in witch space with them was a lot higher. So it wasn't a good start if you got a grey Thargoid. So as a young pilot, I hung around Requat quite a bit, preying on the innocent and the helpless. Though, of course, if you ask me, if you're stupid enough to fly to Requat, then you probably deserve to die. But anyway, hung around that area for a bit, selling my goods in Lave and Deso and the usual places. But that got boring, so one day I decided to fly to the other side of the map, where there happened to be a colony of cowboys with breasts. But did I fly like a normal person? No. No. I used escape capsules. It was quicker. Hyperspace into a system, press Q, escape capsule. You get this view of a Cobra disappearing into the distance as you fly away in your escape capsule, and you instantly arrive at the next station. You get a new Cobra, buy an escape capsule, hyperspace to the next system, and so forth. I didn't actually get there the first time, though. I actually blew up the extension RAM in the Atari ST. It was an Atari ST 512, and Dad upgraded it to a 1024, and that extra bit blew up, so I had to wait for Dad to come home and yank that out before I could finish the journey. Now watch this hyperspace tunnel. Again, you had to watch this very carefully and count the number of bands. I think it was 30 from memory. If you had an extra band, a 31st band, and it was dark grey, you knew you were about to be ambushed by the Thargoids in witch space. So at least you had a few seconds to prepare yourself before you got screwed over. But time's moved on. I gave up my pirating life for a bit, until one day a friend informed me there was a new way to play. Frontier Elite 2. You could land on planets. They didn't have military lasers. It all sounded a bit far-fetched. But nevertheless, I got my copy and realised that this was just something completely different. I'd never seen this before. It was just a whole new level. It had something else completely. It just had a bit of an X factor. Just complete, utter freedom. Now, for a pirate, this was a major technological breakthrough. You could land on planets. Look at this. Look at those domes. full of people. All of these people I can rob and plunder from. I'm not just restricted to ships, random ships in between the stars anymore. No, I've got whole planets I can rob. Amazing. Plus, I can also do flybys of ring gas giants. Never done that before. Always a pretty sight. So there's a lot of potential here, and I became very rich very quick. And don't judge me on this, but I actually went legitimate for a wee while. The milk run from Sol to Barnard Star was just too tempting. But as we know, I'm a pirate at heart, and I couldn't stand the monotony for long. So I started playing the Federation against the Empire, doing spy jobs and destroying bases, getting higher ranks from both, using the money from one to equip my ship to do jobs for the other one. You know how it is. Pirate's got to be a pirate. Now, due to the timing that I discovered Frontier Elite 2, wasn't there much longer until I learnt about First Encounters. Now, I first saw First Encounters in a Dick Smith shop. Now, the box is a bit beaten up anyway, but taped to the front was a verbatim 3.5-inch floppy disk, and on the label written in vivid were the letters V1.06 patch. Not incredibly exciting looking, so I passed on that one. But not too much later, I found a CD version that was obviously all up to date. Now I know what you're thinking, and you're right. As a pirate, it was my civic duty to con Meredith Argent and convince her I was a stand-up guy so that she would loan me the Argent's Quest. The Argent's Quest was one of 4 remaining Turner-class ships. And what a ship! Just look at it. Like nothing else I'd ever flown before. Turn it on a dime. It just had a bit of a look, and when you retracted the landing gear, the tail started wagging. Crazy. There's a bit of a change between Frontier Elite 2 and First Encounters. All the sort of designs that came from the AAAI shipyards in Alioth were more organic looking than what you'd seen from the snack ships, and this was just taking it to another level again. But, of course, took that ship, head off to Polaris up north, but the best is yet to be. If I thought Meredith Argent was a sucker, the Thargoids gave me a Thargoid warship, no strings attached. You sure? I might have helped cure them from some plague thingy, but hey, payday, baby. Now, this was a serious ship. When I first played the game, ended up at Mayaki, thousands of light years away from home, and had to get back all the way back to Alioth before I could save the game, because through some bug or whatever, when I got the ship, it was filled up with 65,535 tons of alien items. But as soon as I saved the game, that dropped down to 128. And that took my super awesome Thargoid warship down to mediocre in my mind. Didn't want that. So I had to fly without an autopilot, without a docking computer, without saving, all the way to Alioth and docked. So I could sell the alien items to make it real cargo, fill it up with shield generators, 999 shield generators, all the equipment I could, and a bunch of other stock, and then save it, and then I had my massive TARDIS Thargoid. So once I had that, pretty much indestructible. Watch out for me, the pirate. It was great. A few other things I really enjoyed about working in First Encounters, of course, was the storyline, obviously, but the fact that we had these newspapers which helped move the storyline along, but also just provided a bit of verisimilitude, a bit of background data, just sort of made the world, again, another step bigger than it was in the previous games, which is always important to me. Back in the day, I heard a lot of criticism about the shading and the texture of First Encounters versus Frontier. Frontier was a very simple polygon graphics, and First Encounters tried to create more detail around that. I'm not really sure what the problem was. I really enjoyed it. I thought the graphics was quite a big step up, and First Encounters was always my favourite of the 2 sequels. Just felt more alive and more dynamic. There was just more things to do. I mean, having the alliance there with Alioth, suddenly a powerhouse, being the game started 50 years after Frontier Elite 2, just sort of threw a new dynamic in there. And INRA, at the time was called the Intergalactic Naval Research Arm, potential there, obviously. And if you've read And Hear the Wheel, then obviously you know about that. And now, another 50 years later, in the year 3300, a new chapter has arrived. And unfortunately, I've had to relearn how to pilot a ship. Since then, I've been busy using guns and stealing stuff, and getting back into the cockpit has not been an easy transition. But mark my words, I'll be out there, and I'll be trying to take your cargo. So watch out. So thanks for listening. I'm Robert Gary, leader of the Gary Pirate Clan. If you want to learn more about us, head over to www.andhearthewheel.co.nz. Sign up for our newsletter. You'll learn all there is to know about us, everyone that's involved, all of our ships, what we get up to, and I'll see you out there. So long, Commanders.